Update 37 is live with the 4th beta, and as usual with a new beta, there's going to be new changes, and in this video, as usual, we're going to go through all the new changes. So, we're going to start this video off with a little bit of speculation. As you can see, there's a new pet that's being added to the game, butterflies. You can see the small, beautiful butterflies flying around, and the text displaying that this is acquired from the superior River-Hobbit Bundle. So either this is a new supporter pack that we're getting with the River-Hobbit release, or there's going to be bundles released with the hobbits that you can buy. In any case, there are quite a few items that I can already see that will probably be in this bundle. One of them being, of course, the cute little butterflies. But as we can see, we have quite a few cosmetic items, some cuffs and gloves. There's a cape, there's a dress, vest and trousers, shoulder guards, a cap and a hat. Of course, the tome of butterflies. And there's also some river folk cosmetic housing items that you can earn. Tapestry, ancestors, a chair, and a hearth. So we can actually take a look at some of these items. So if we try to do this, let's see if we can do this. If I zoom in, we can look at the cuffs of the river fox. You can see you get a couple of cuffs on your hands or your wrists. There's also gloves of the river folk. Let's take a look at the cape of the river folk. I believe this is a shoulder item. Pretty nice cosmetic. Has some flowers on it, I think. Yeah, this is a shoulder item you can get from the river folk. What else do we have? We have the dress. Let's get a look at what the dress looks like. There's your dress of the river folk. Zoom in on the patterns a bit. My clubs are in the way, I'm sorry. Yeah, looking like the river hobbits will have some nice cosmetics you can get. What else do we have? The vest and trousers of the river folk. Looks kind of nice. We have shoulder guards of the river folk. So more of a armor looking item with the shoulder guards. And of course we have a cap and a hat. Let's take a look. Cap of the river folk. A feathery looking cap, and the hat of the river folk. Kind of nice looking hat right there, also with a feather in it. Those are the items I could find for now from the river hobbits. Of course, you had the housing items, but can't really look at them until I know where to get them. But those are the cosmetics I could see for now. And of course, the Tome of Butterflies, possibly a future supporter pack or a future bundle that you can acquire from the store. We can also get a preview of some of the Farmers Fair Festival cosmetics. I believe the Firefox Bandit pet, at least, is from the Farmers Fair Festival. And me, being Ghyn and the Ghynfox, I will of course be getting this Firefox Bandit, perfect as a pet for me. And even better, there's also a Firefox mask. I believe this will be part of the Farmers Fair. Of course, I don't know for sure, but I know the Blazing Firmament items will be. So at least in the item treasury, I could find boots, a robe, and cloaks, as well as a steed and a centerpiece of the Blazing Firmament. So we already saw the cosmetic pet. So let's get a quick look at the steed of the Blazing Firmament. Should be arriving with the Farmers Festival. I think that's like a rugged looking horse. I kind of like it. And of course we have some of these items in the item treasury. So let's just take a quick look here. The boots of the Blazing Firmament will look like this. I kind of like those boots for me. More than my current ones. Interesting. What else do we have? We have the Firefox mask. Of course, I will be getting this. Hopefully it dyes orange. Let's see. Orange. There we go. Yes, sir. Ghynfox mask is complete. And there's also a robe of the blazing firmament. I kind of like that. Some nice looking cosmetics being added with this update. And there's also cloaks, hooded and normal cloak. We're going to look at the hooded cloak. A nice looking cloak. They're doing some good job with, or some good work with the cosmetics, I think. So you can get this cloak, hooded or non-hooded, of course, if you prefer that. This might be my new Ghynfox cosmetic. But yeah, those are the items I could find from, I believe, the Farmers Faire Festival this year. One general change that's coming to the game: all weapons should now have the same animation speed. No longer should weapons like clubs or swords be faster than, for example, axes and hammers. All the animations should be the same regardless of your equipped weapon. For the Beorning class, we have quite a few new changes. Some might be old, but they're still gonna get mentioned because they're pretty important to the rework. But one of the biggest changes you'll ever see on the Beorning: Relentless Maul can now be used on the move. Just look at this magnificent bear moving around while using Maul. It's beautiful, and I think they did a pretty good job with the animation. So I'm quite happy to see this change. A really good change. Maul can now be used on the move. The claw swipe skill is now a base skill for the Beorning, meaning that you'll have it in every trait line, and there are traits in every line that will alter the claw swipe effect. Opposing presence in blue line will increase the AoE damage of claw swipe. The set bonus in red line, Rake, will make claw swipe apply a bleed if you're playing red line Beorning. And for yellow line, the Raging Blow trait has been reworked. No longer does it increase the damage of your Mark of Grimbeorn targets, but instead, as we can see, it will then reduce the damage the target takes. It's a good thing to put on a tank, reducing the damage taken by 10%. So if you put all 3 points into Raging Blow, and let's say you mark a tank, then you use Claw Swipe on a target, this buff will apply to the tank and they will take less damage. Vicious Claws, which is your main interrupt skill as a Beorning, has also been streamlined a bit. It will cost 5 Wrath, as you can see, because I'm traded yellow line, it'll cost 5 Wrath, but it will cost 10 Wrath in the Claw red line and in the Hide blue line. For blue and red, it'll cost 10 Wrath. In yellow, your interrupt will cost less, but the trade-offs for costing more in blue and red are that in red line it does more damage, and in blue line it has increased threat. Ferocious Roar also had a few changes. It now regens the Wrath over 5 seconds rather than 10, but you still get the same amount. Pressing Ferocious Roar while you're in bear form will use as a skill, but also put you in man form like this. Artan's initial heal has been increased. Rush now costs 5 Wrath rather than adding Wrath. The cleanse cooldown has been reduced to 16 seconds. A few skills have changed from being tactical skills, namely Vigilant Roar, Nature's Vengeance, Bee Swarm, and Grizzly Cry, and these skills will now get benefits from melee bonuses, rather than tactical. Any power pot will now have a warning if you're playing Beorning, cannot use with effect Beorning class. So you can no longer use power pots as Beorning, and the items will give you a warning that you cannot use the items. Time to look at some blue Beorning changes. A new set bonus trait called Cultivate has been added in the place of Animalistics. It will still give the same effects, namely increasing Wrath generation in bear form by 2 every 3 seconds in combat, but it will also give you an any form version of Ferocious Roar. As we can see, Ferocious Roar can be used in any type, so man or bear form, and it will also add a 10% morale heal upon use. So in blue line, Ferocious Roar will be a 10% max morale heal with a cooldown of 30 seconds, while also increasing your Wrath generation in bear form. Another trait and skill added in blue line, Thorned Armor, is a cooldown that, if maxed out with the traits, lasts for 10 seconds, increased threat over time for 10 seconds, and on any hit received you negate 35% damage and you reflect 35% of the damage. cooldown of Thorned Armor is 55 seconds. Hurricane is a new capstone trait and a new skill for the blue Beorning, and the effect is basically like the Guardian's Juggernaut. Sets your evade chance to 100%, so it's actually better than Juggernaut because you can evade from every direction while you have to block in front of you. But Hurricane sets your evade chance to 100% for 15 seconds, and you're immune to all combat states as well. And you also reflect 15% of damage, and you get increased threat over time. So another really strong cooldown for blue Beorning. Opposing presence in the top of blue line now increases the AoE damage of Claw Swipe by 10%. Guarded attack now costs 5 Wrath instead of adding Wrath. Counter costs 10 Wrath instead of adding 5 Wrath. Counter attack now adds 5 Wrath rather than 10. The set trait bonus Defensively Minded no longer builds stacks of guarded. Instead, when you parry an attack, you will get increased threat, and when you evade an attack, you will generate Wrath. So 1 Wrath per evade, I believe, making your Hurricane cooldown even stronger, regenning Wrath on every evade. The Assertive Roar trait in the middle of blue, max morale tiers have been reduced to 3, 6, and 10 per rank. So max out while Ferocious Roar is active, you receive plus 10% max morale. The duration of the effect though has been increased to 45 seconds, meaning that with a cooldown of 30 seconds and duration of 45 seconds, you will have a permanent 10% max morale as a Beorning, just simply by using Ferocious Roar off cooldown. And the final blue line change, Recuperate's initial healing has been increased. There has also been some changes to the red line Beorning. Weakening Blows, which is a trait that got moved from blue over to red, has had a change. It no longer reduces the outgoing damage of your target, but the slam damage increase stays the same. Blood Price is a new trait and skill in the middle of red line, and putting all points into this will give you the skill Blood Price at max strength, increases bleed damage by 25% and also increases Wrath builder damage by 25%. Duration 30 seconds and cooldown is a minute 30 seconds. Also adds 5 to Wrath. These are the builder skills in case anyone was curious. They count as builder skills. And then all your bleeds will also be increased while you have Blood Price active. A pretty strong cooldown for a 30-second duration, only a minute downtime. Basically a 25% increase in your DPS as a red Beorning. Trample is another new trait and skill earned in Redline. It's found pretty high up in Redline, Trample, and you can also make it into Improved Trample. And putting all points into this gives you a Trample with all the debuffs, deals damage over 2 attacks, it's a bear form skill costing 5 Wrath, but also debuffs your enemy's BPE by 5% and also the critical defense by 5%. And these debuffs have a duration of 12 seconds, but the skill cooldown is also 12 seconds, so pretty much a 100% uptime debuff for red Beorning. The Beorning animations for Thrash on tier 2 and tier 3 has switched places, so that Thrash tier 3 is the most impressive. The Turn the Tides trait in Redline had its base damage increased. The skill Execute has been reworked. It is now a high-powered single target skill that consumes all your Wrath, and it requires at least 50 Wrath to be used. The skill can now critically hit. The damage has been increased, and there's no longer a health threshold for you to use that skill. The set bonus Rake in Redline that gives a bleed to Claw Swipe no longer tears up and instead pulses every 3 seconds for 30 seconds. Slash also no longer tears up and now just pulses every 3 seconds for 30 seconds. Call to Wild also had a change. It no longer provides Wrath generation or lessens Wrath cost. It is now simply a DPS cooldown, 1 minute cooldown, duration 15 seconds, 30% melee damage. But of course, if you add the Call to Wild melee damage bonus Tracery, the melee damage can go up to 52%, the duration can go up to 20.5 seconds, making it a pretty strong DPS cooldown. And finally, a change to Expose. It now adds 5 instead of 10 to Wrath. And as you can see, expose in man or bear form will give the same debuff, meaning incoming melee damage and incoming range damage. No longer an incoming tactical damage buff with the exposed skill. A few changes in yellow line worth mentioning. Rejuvenating Bellow now has a cooldown of 6 seconds, and the way this healing skill works is that whoever you're targeting, if you're targeting a person and healing that person, everyone in their fellowship will get healed. So if you're in a raid and you have 2 groups and you target someone in the other group away from you, then that person and the entire group in that fellowship will get healed by your Bellow. So Bellow is basically a fellowship targetable heal now, no longer raid-wide. Nature's Salve is a new healing skill added to yellow line. You can find it pretty far up in yellow, and it basically replaces the Bellow effect, meaning that it heals raid-wide, but it has a 10-meter radius, so pretty short. You need to be close to people to heal them, and the cooldown is pretty long, namely 45 seconds. The healing increase trait has been renamed to Nature's Favor. The Raging Blow trait has been reworked. It now gets applied by using Claw Swipe. Using Claw Swipe on a target if you have someone marked with your Mark of Grimbeorn will give them a short buff. Their damage taken will be reduced by 10%. Nature's Mend induction time has been halved, so it's now only 0.5 seconds to cast Nature's Mend. I'm going to go ahead and use it. As we can see, it is now pretty fast to use. Nice little change there. The Shake Free bubble that we all know can be applied with Shake Free has been switched to another skill. Sacrifice is now the skill that applies this damage preventing bubble. Only one change for the champion in this build. Wild Attack now has 2 attacks. Even if you're using a 2-handed weapon, or if you're doing dual wield, it now has 2 attacks, giving you another proc chance for the Wild Attack buff, making sure that Wild Swings is probably worth trading again, even if you're 2-handed weapon. The dual wield animation for Wild Attack has also been fixed. We have a few new changes to the Guardian class. The Bastion of Light animation has been adjusted to be more generic. Let's take a look. Bastion of Light. I think this is a really nice animation. As we can see, the square is where the effects will apply. If you trade Demoralizing Anthems in yellow, War Chant should reduce the cooldowns on Overwhelm and Shield Taunt, but I believe they're currently bugged, so we're not going to take a look at them. But whenever this gets released, War Chant will also reduce the cooldown of Overwhelm and Shield Taunt if you have this traded. War Chant and Vexing Blow had their base damage increased by 25%. Charged and the improved charged versions are now fast skills. The animations of your shield skills and Vexing Blow should execute slightly faster than before, but from what I've read on my Discord server, there has been some issues with this and they're kind of buggy, so we're not going to look at them. But when the Guardian releases, these skills should all execute slightly faster than before. For Redline Guardian, Hammer Down now applies its damage in 2 attacks. The singular focus trait now shows the amount of mitigations that you debuff on a target, debuffing 3% of both mitigation types. To the King now applies a 3-second knockdown on a critical or devastating hit, rather than a CJ or a stun. And your new DPS cooldown, Relentless Fury, now applies to parry and block response skills, giving you a 6-second window of using these skills, meaning that when you pop this cooldown, you have a 6-second window where all these skills are active, and of course your melee damage and critical melee damage buffs last for 20 seconds. And finally, a quick mention for the Forester event. Whenever the event is active, if you enter this area, your mounts and your run speed buffs will be disabled. As you can see right now, when I ride in on my mount, I will get dismounted. So this will only apply for the area where the event takes place. Hey! Hey you! Yeah you! What do you want? You enjoy my content and you want to support me? Fine, I'll show you how you can do it. I would really appreciate if you like the video and subscribe to my channel. You can also support me through my Ko-fi homepage. If you're playing or looking to play Lord of the Rings online, there is one place you need to be. The Ghyniverse is a Discord server created for the community of the players of Lord of the Rings Online. The server is getting close to 7,000 members, and in this server you'll find tons of helpful information. There's monthly giveaways, easy access to patch notes, you can keep up with my YouTube videos, my streams. If you're a streamer, you can ask for the streamer role and you can announce your streams in the other stream channel. There are discussion channels for pretty much everything, every class, monster players. But the best thing about this server is probably the Gearing Resources tab, where you can find anything from trait lines for every class, every build. There are stat goals, where you can find out what stats you should aim for on your characters. Really helpful information about drop rates from instances, as well as screenshot from all the new loot that appears in the game. If you enjoy Lotro, you should definitely consider joining this server, and hopefully I'll see you in Middle-earth. If you were part of the Ghyniverse already, you might have noticed that another tab appeared at the top, the LFF server. This server is a brand new server that I created, the LFF Ghyniverse. In this server, you can select which servers you want to keep up with, and once you select your server, say you select Arkenstone, you will see the LFF, the kinship advertisement, looking for kinship and trade channels, and there's also voice channels if people want to use those. The LFF channel is basically a looking for fellowship channel where people can post if they need players for the runs, and this way people don't have to be logged into the game to see the chat, they can just instead get a notification on their Discord. There's also a kinship advertisement page where kins can post their kinship advertisement and have people join their kins. And you can also post in the looking for kinship chat if you're looking for a kinship, but make sure to take a look in the kinship advertisement first and look through all the kin to find a suitable kin for you. There's also a trade channel if people want to buy or sell stuff that you can use. Hopefully you'll consider joining this server to bring the community even more together, not just in the game, but also outside of the game.